All right, guys, welcome back to the Heavy Praise podcast. I am Heavy Praise, and I am here with, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, I'm Mitch from Pipe Bomb.
Whew, man, what an honor, my brother. I mean, if you've watched the podcast a couple months ago, I uploaded a podcast with his band that he's in, Plead the Widow's Cause, which is actually local to my area in where I'm from. I'm from South Jersey, New Jersey, and it's really cool to have him back on again. And we're just gonna chop it up and talk about your music, man. And I wanted to ask you, um, with your music, let me pull it up real quick. Um, where did you get the idea from your EP that you dropped in February of last year, Stomp? Like where did that come from? Like what is the behind the scenes like going on in Mr. Mitch's brain? Like what's going on there?
Yeah, so when I first got the idea for Pipe Bomb, it wasn't called Pipe Bomb and it wasn't really much of an idea at all. I just it had been years since I had written any type of like metal music. Um, I spent like 4 years playing and touring with like an indie rock band called Church Girls. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Um, I was very privileged to get to like write songs for them and we're all like very good friends. Um, but we started to take a little bit of a break from touring and I was like, maybe it would be cool if I just messed around and wrote some metal stuff since it's been a while since I wrote that. And so I kind of was sitting on these, they weren't quite songs, it was more like riffs. But I was sitting on them and talking with my brother who's a drummer, and we had the idea to make more of like a not quite power violence, but like false grind, like Nails Weekend Nachos style band,
Right.
but with Christian lyrics. Because I was like, there really are not many bands doing that. I mean, Chaos Must Bow is kind of doing that now. I
Dude,
think they have some of those influences.
they're crazy.
Yeah, I mean they're great. But back then, that band did not exist, so I was like, oh, that could be cool. Um, so yeah, we spent some time writing some stuff, and we both got really busy. It ended up just kind of not happening. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just kind of like tweak it a little bit and see what happens. So I went for more of like a not straight ahead metalcore, but the stuff that I grew up on, like more of like the early Norma Jean stuff, the Chariot, that kind of thing. And that turned into False God. So that was the first thing that I released, and I did all the like recording and vocals and drums and everything myself, and I just programmed the drums for that. And so I was like, well, who I don't know if anyone will care about this, and I just kind of put it out. And then a few friends sent it to Sean at Kingdom Court. I know Brett sent it, my friend Steven sent it, and he posted it, and then like overnight, I think I got like 1,000 Instagram followers, which for me is a lot.
Yeah, that's so
So
cool.
I was kind of like, wow, actually, people kind of care about this, and I think people have been missing that sound and
Mm.
missing that side of Christian music. Because I don't think we're short on a lot of the other metalcore styles. Like there's like Bloodlines doing their thing. Um,
Oh yeah.
we have like the legends of like August Burns Red and like all those type of bands. Um, and so I feel like a lot of the more, I don't know, I guess cleaner cut metalcore, it's very tight, it's very precise. I feel like we had that covered, but I was like, really aren't that many bands doing the kind of stuff that I would want to listen to. So um, yeah, so that's sort of where the idea for Pipe Bomb came from. And when after I released False God, I was like, oh shoot, I should probably start writing some other stuff.
Hmm.
And then I released the other two singles, and then I was like, I need to just do an EP, and I need to kind of like put some more time into re-recording some things. Because there were a lot of things in like those initial singles that I was like not super happy with recording wise.
Mm.
So I re-recorded a lot of things and put a couple more songs in there. I think I released 3 singles, and then I had 3 more, including those 3 singles on the EP. Um, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much where it came from. And I didn't really have, it's not really like a concept album or anything. Like it's not like I had any specific like content lyrically in mind. I just kind of wanted to write different things.
Mm.
Um, and so I tried for this EP at least to, after it came out, I would post the lyrics and then kind of talk about them a little bit on Instagram. So um, I'll probably do something similar when this album comes out, whenever the new album comes out. I'll try to break down some of the lyrics for people.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Um, we're gonna get back to what you just ended with in a couple minutes.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask before that, what made you come up with the name Pipe Bomb? Like it's a very intriguing name.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it sounded cool.
Okay.
I think I was watching a documentary on the Unabomber or something,
The
and
Unabomber.
I was like, I don't know, Pipe Bomb is kind of a cool band name.
I mean,
Um,
it is pretty cool.
yeah, and I mean, so funny enough, when I was telling you earlier about like those initial riffs that I made, and me and my brother were kind of trying to start a band,
Yeah, yeah.
the the floating name that we had was Barabbas. And then
Barabbas.
Meadows came out with the song Barabbas, and I was like, we can't use that anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that song. It's a great song. But
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, I feel like we need something different. Um, and so, yeah, I really just wanted a name that like sounded cool. I know there are plenty of bands that like really put a lot of thought into the meaning of the name. Um, but for me, I was like, well, the meaning's going to come from the songs itself. The meaning is going to come from the lyrics. The meaning is going to come from like how I live my life and how I present that musically. So, um, yeah, I was a lot less concerned about the meaning of the name, and I just wanted it to sound kind of cool.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, that's not a better story,
No,
but
totally fine. I wanted to ask, and I'm sure all of your fans that are watching this and gonna hear this podcast, um, when is that new album coming out?
yeah. So,
We're all dying to know.
um, I'm hoping for the fall. I don't want to rush it. Um, it's been kind of tough recording wise. I feel like it was moving really fast in the beginning and I was blowing through all the guitar parts. I'm like, this is great. And then I got to vocals and I was like, oh man, this is like taking a toll on me.
Mm.
Um, and I'm still kind of in the process of adjusting my vocal technique, but to be honest, like I just kind of yell.
Mm.
Um, I just yell until it breaks up, and then that's what I do. And so for the time being, that's how I'm recording it. That's not how I want to do it indefinitely. But for these songs, I'm like, I think that's just what I need to do to get them done. Um, and that's how I've always done it. It's definitely not the right way. It's not like my voice hurts. It's not good for me.
Mm.
But so yeah, because of that, I think a lot of times my recording days are limited to like a couple hours, maybe like 3 hours if I'm like pacing myself well, drinking water and taking breaks.
Mm.
Um, so it's been hard for me to get through a lot of songs at once. I also can't record vocals like at my apartment. It's way too loud. So
Mm.
I drive to my mom's house and record in her basement,
I
which
was
is
literally just about to say
yeah,
that.
it's a very cool thing to do.
Yeah.
No, so I go to her basement and record, but that's an hour away, and I
Yeah.
also have to like time it out with work and stuff. So yeah, it's just been taking a little longer than I wanted. And I know once all the recording is done, it'll take some time to like get the files ready and get like a rough mix ready. I'm sending it off to be mixed and mastered. So yeah, I'm not really totally sure how long that process will take or how long it'll take for me to finish those vocals and for my brother to finish drums. Um, but I'm aiming for the fall, definitely by the end of the year.
Cool. I mean, I personally can't wait to hear it because I love your sound and I love the way that you are very technical and also like chaotic in the way that you produce your sound, and I freaking love it. And you gave a really good comparison of another band that's like doing the music that your style of music now, like Chaos Must Bow, and you guys sound like have a very similar sound in a way, but like you obviously have your own unique vocal sound, and and they have their own unique vocal sound. But I really do love it, and I really can't wait to hear the new album when it comes out.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man, of course.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And uh I wanted to ask you also, uh is there anything like biblically at all that inspires your music at all?
Um, yes, I think it varies. Do you mean biblically that inspires why I make this type of music, or
Well,
just that inspires the lyrics?
inspires the lyrics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I mean it's different for every song.
Mm.
Not every song. There are definitely bands out there that are more straightforward on the worship front. Like No Treaty is just very straightforward, um, kind of uncompromising, and I love that about them. I feel like my approach is a little bit more subtle, biblically. Um, but yeah, I mean, take a song like False God,
Mm.
that's definitely inspired by sort of the faith versus works
Mm.
argument.
Mm.
Um, And I think, a lot of people thought I was talking about Catholics because the single cover had a nun on it, and I really wasn't. I think that there are lots of different denominations that can be prone to that way of thinking.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's just, maybe a little bit of oversight on my part of not, picking that as my album cover. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, songs like False God, there's definitely unpacking the sort of faith versus works argument and um, pulling back on like our works are nothing,
Right.
you know, um, like really nothing. And like a song like Concrete is more on the unpacking the growing trend of like deconstruction and I guess like progressive theology.
Right.
Um, and I guess hinting at like the underlying causes of that and maybe gaps in theology that could lead to that or like a desire to compromise something along
Mm.
the way. um and yeah, it's been a while since I've like thought about those lyrics, so it's I guess it's sort of a vague answer, but I could probably think more about individual lines and unpack
Sure.
them a bit. But yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not necessarily every single song, but quite a few of them focus on biblical themes in some way. There's a few on the new album that I think dive a little deeper into that. Um, yeah.
Okay. Are you allowed to say on the new album like what kind of style you're going for? Are you going faster, slower? Are you going more intense? Are you going more chaotic?
Yeah. So a lot of the new songs on the new album are actually songs that I wrote years ago, before
Wow.
Pipe Bomb was a thing. So like I was saying, like there's riffs I was writing that were more like false grindy, in the nails type of
Okay.
area. And so I think it's some of the songs are definitely veering more towards that side and farther away from the, I guess, like Norma Jean early 2000s metalcore sound. And then there are other ones that I think are that sound, but more kind of like ugly riffs and stuff. I mean, I think of like Norma Jean's "Oh God, the Aftermath" is like riff city. You know, I
Mm,
love that album guitar wise, and so
yeah.
and I use a very similar tuning for a lot of the songs. So there's some on the new album that really the dissonance is like higher
Yeah.
for sure. There are a few that are a little slower tempo wise, and there were a few where I tried to kind of um, try some things out with like different vocal styles, like less screaming. And it's not singing, but it's more like talking vocals and um, yeah, I tried to try some new stuff.
Okay.
I really didn't want it to just be the same thing, and I really wanted each song to have its own hook. Um, so yeah, and you know, Hate Club and Concrete are both going to be on that album. So it's
Word.
those two and then 8 new ones.
Sweet.
Um, so yeah, and a few of them are a little shorter. Um, but I think that's sort of the pipe bomb way. I'm not trying to, you know, if a song makes it over 2 minutes, that's like crazy for me, you know?
Yeah, I've
So,
noticed that.
yeah. Um,
Which is not, it's not a bad thing at all. It's just your style.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to leave people like wanting more and replay the song than
Right.
like people get bored and switch the song halfway through.
Fair. Very fair. I mean, there's a band that I listen to, like, I don't know if you heard of them, Diatheke or Diatheke, or
Oh, okay.
like
Yeah.
they have,
Yeah, I know that band. I don't know how to pronounce it either,
yeah,
but
they had that really, those really long songs. And I love their music, but sometimes it does get a little like, all right, I'm ready for the next song, you know? And, but I mean, their music, like talent wise, is fantastic. Like I really like their music a lot. And, uh, but most of the time, I don't have the time to like sit down and actually really listen to the music. I'm usually in the car going somewhere, you know, and I just want a quick jam, you know what I'm saying? So
mhm.
that's usually me. So, but no, I've listened to their music though before, and I mean their music is fantastic. But yeah, it's funny how you guys are like complete opposites, you know, and it's your
Yeah.
style. Like you like really short power, like punch, like power, like pack a punch kind of song, like in a minute and 30 seconds, minute 50 seconds, you know, and they're like 8 minute songs, 7 minute songs, six
Mhm.
minute songs, you know. But yeah, I also wanted to ask you, what is, speaking of the new album, like what is, if you're allowed to say, what is a lyric or a song that you've written recently that has hit you the hardest, like thinking about it?
Yeah. There's two on the new album that I think hit kind of hard. Um, and I think you know everyone's going to interpret it different ways. Um, one of them I wrote about um, a family member who really like kind of ruined their life with sin,
Mm,
um, and is kind of unpacking where they ended up
yeah,
and the kind of like place of despair. And there's always this temptation to when someone does something that we would argue is, you know, really bad. You know, they cheated on their spouse, they, you know, said something terrible or, you know,
yeah,
whatever it was. There's a temptation to kind of view them as lower than you. Um, and kind of right, you know, I wouldn't say that that's rightful to say that someone's lower than you. I think it's fair to be disappointed in people. I think it's fair. You know, we've seen that with like the Michael Tate stuff coming
yeah,
out, you know,
yeah.
like people are obviously disappointed and rightfully so.
Mhm.
Um, when it is someone super close to you and there's a lot of like bitterness there, not just on behalf of me, but on behalf of like other family members that they hurt. Um, that song is kind of unpacking like, you know, being mad at somebody being disappointed in somebody, biblically seeing that what they've done is extremely wrong and hurtful to a lot of people, and also kind of coming around to like, but we're kind of the same, like
Mm.
I've done stuff like that too. You can't view someone else's sin as just being inherently worse than yours. Obviously, everyone struggles with different things, and legally there are some things that are worse than others. But um, yeah, I think that song was humbling for me to write up there. But to end up in a place where it's like kind of forgiving this person by realizing that you're extending the same forgiveness has been extended to you.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think that's one of them. Um, and another one is hopefully this isn't overplayed, but it's the song is about sort of the false teachers in the church, and I think mainly on the side of progressive theology that has been progressively disregarding the Bible as truth and kind of handpicking things out of it. And that lyric is based on, I think it's a passage in Romans. I would hold on, let me tell you.
Yep.
I have it in a note here.
Cool.
Is based on Romans 16:18. Um, and sorry, let me just pull it up.
You're good. Read it for me.
Right. All right. Romans 16:18. For such persons do not serve our Lord Christ, but their own appetites, and by smooth talk and flattery they deceive the hearts of the naive.
Mm.
And that idea of an appetite is like interesting to me. Like it's just an interesting word choice on Paul's part. And so the lyric in the song is baptized in a starving lie, an appetite. I don't want your new God. And it's kind of like the word Christian means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. People are being baptized into this
Yeah.
when in reality we're kind of being baptized into two different things.
Mm.
Into a lot of different things if you start, thinking about all the different denominations out there um and what they're being baptized into is, very different than something that I would believe and something that I would say is biblical. In some cases, obviously I'm not saying that on a general scale about just any church denomination I'm not in, but there are definitely some that have veered very far off the path. And so, yeah, that just thinking about a religion kind of serving your own appetites was an interesting prompt for that song.
Mm.
Um, and there are a lot of other lines in that song that I think that one definitely took me the longest to think of all the lyrics for because I didn't want to just be cliche about it and I didn't want to not put the time in. So that
Mm.
one definitely took me the longest out of everything. And there's a third. I mean, I wrote a straight edge song. I'm straight edge. I know that's not like for everyone, even within the Christian world, but I did write a straight edge song, which had been on my
What?
mind for a while. So,
Explain what straight edge is for those that don't know.
I mean, straight edge is a subculture of punk and hardcore that um, embodies a rejection of, I guess, addictive substances. So, cigarettes, alcohol, hard drugs, I think some people include promiscuous sex, things like that. Um, Depending on who you talk to, I think there's different parameters. Some people are like, "Oh, caffeine is a drug," and it
Yeah.
can go a lot of different
I
ways.
mean, I guess you could say I'm straight edge too. I mean, but I don't really call myself straight edge. I just try and obey God's commands as best as I can, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there is quite an overlap with Christian values there. I think
Oh yeah, for
sort of
sure.
coincidentally, it wasn't born out of Christian values. It was born out of a rejection of sort of the prominent culture at the time, and still is the prominent culture of our time.
Right.
Um, so yeah, and I have a lot of Christian friends who drink responsibly and stuff, so it's nothing against them.
Hmm.
But for me, I kind of wanted to write kind of an angsty straight edge song because I'd never really had the chance to do that before, and so um, yeah, kind of stoked on how that one turned out. Um, but yeah, those are the three that come to mind on the new album
Cool.
of lyrics that kind of pop out to me.
Cool. I want to touch on your first point about like how you said that the one song is about how like a family member of yours is like you wrote about their life and whether it ended up right now, and about how you're angry and such and such. Obviously, I don't know the situation, and you don't have to tell me, but I think it's very important because people have messed up in my life too, and it's important to remember because you touched on it. You said like you've done something wrong and it's biblically incorrect, and it's also obviously um, societally in a society it's wrong. Whatever they did, whatever. Um, but the Bible says that um, no man is righteous. No man is righteous at all. And we've all sinned. We've all fallen short. And also, the Bible, Jesus says that we need to, before we even take the speck out of somebody else's eye, we need to take the log out of our own eye, you know? And whether it's a big sin or a bad sin, or a big sin or a small sin, it's still sin in the end of the day. But we need to check ourselves first, you know, and make sure that we're not in that sin because or you know like or have done that sin recently, you know, say like someone like in my life that gotten drunk and started abusing me mentally, you know, which has happened before in my life. And uh I have to check myself first before I can even correct them in such a way. You know, if I'm am I getting drunk myself or am I, you know, because if I am, then I can't really say anything because I'm being a hypocrite. But like, I need to look at myself and analyze my life and make sure I'm walking with God correctly and the best of my ability. You know what I'm saying? And and try and show them love and try and show them correction and God's grace, you know, that he's shown us because how God says, how can I forgive you if you can't forgive your own brother? You know what I'm saying? And it's very convicting. And no matter what somebody has done, because Jesus has forgiven us of everything, bro. And literally everything, even what the person did to your family or whatever, like your family member, they, Jesus still forgave them for everything, you know? And that's where God's grace comes in. And it's so hard when someone does you wrong. It is so hard to forgive them. It is so hard. And I've come to peace with the Lord and sometimes it's very rare, but I still do. I'm not perfect in it at all, but to forgive someone that they've done me wrong, you know, and God has shown me so much growth in that aspect of my life. And people say like, wow, like Antonio, like what's going on with you, man? Like you've changed ever since I've last talked to you like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, man, I mean, I'm Christian and I believe in Jesus and he forgave me for everything, so I don't care what you do or what you've done. I forgive you and I care about you, you know. And that's the kind of mentality I try and walk on, and to the best of my ability, of course. But I think that really stuck out to me what you said, Mitch. And um, yeah, I think that's really awesome that you wrote a song about that, and because that can really relate to a lot of people, you know. And yeah,
Yeah, I think especially people that are in a situation where reconciliation is not necessarily an option.
Right.
or a good option. You know, you think of someone who's in an abusive relationship, um, or you know, examples like that. It can be tough to forgive someone while still being in a place of hurt and knowing that you shouldn't be around that person. You know, it's
Right.
the separation part is kind of tricky sometimes.
Sure.
I think sometimes it's easier to forgive somebody when it comes along with reconciliation because it feels more like a full circle. And sometimes you have loose ends where you just have to forgive someone and then let them be. Um, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of complexities to things like this, and obviously everyone's life has different situations. But
For sure.
yeah, I'm kind of hoping that songs like that can kind of strike a nerve
Mm.
somewhere.
Yeah. Amen. And I love that. Um, with writing songs and such, how long was the process? And in that process, did you ever experience like any type of like doubt, burnout, spiritual dryness, or like lyrically dryness, you know? And if you have any advice to for other artists that are listening to this that may have struggled with it or are struggling with it and any of those things, please tell us like what do you do to deal with those things?
Yeah. I mean, I think when I started writing most of these songs, like I said, some of them are older songs, but when I wrote a lot of the newer songs, they happened pretty quick. Um, and I try not to overthink things when I write. It's very meat and potatoes.
Hmm.
Um, I don't, you know, the songs are pretty short, so it's
Right,
not like
right.
I'm trying to think of a bunch of different things. It's more like, here's one thing I really think is cool. Here's another thing I really think is cool. Here's another thing, song's done.
Right.
Um, but getting all those things to go together sometimes is tricky,
Mm.
and getting it to sound like a song instead of like, here's three different riffs.
Hmm.
Um, but to be honest, getting in that state where I think of one thing that's cool and then I just think of like, okay, where do I hear this going? You know, before I even pick up a guitar, I'm like, what type of thing do I hear this going into?
Right.
Where do I want it to end up? Um, and that's been really helpful for me. And even the way where I start writing songs, I typically start with rhythms instead of riffs. So
Mm.
I think of, you know, what type of, not even necessarily what type of drum beat I want it to be, but some of the riffs are a little bit, I wouldn't call it like mathcore per se, but you know, they have sort of like syncopated rhythms. And I think of those rhythms before I pick up a guitar. And I hum stuff all day. You know, if I'm just like working and I think of something that might sound cool, I'll hum it to myself and then I'll go try it on a guitar later and just try to think of whatever notes would best fit that idea that I had.
Mm.
Um, so that's worked well for me. And typically when the writing part on guitar goes pretty quickly. If I am not super happy with what I churn out and the I have to start editing, that takes me forever.
Mm.
Um, because then it's kind of like, all right, the inspiration's gone. Try to start thinking technically about all these different things. Um, so that's kind of a harder part for me. And then sometimes writing lyrics takes me a very, very long time.
Mm.
And I really don't want to phone it in. Um, so yeah, writing the lyrics for this album took me a really long time.
Mm.
And I definitely hit places of doubt and burnout. Um, I don't know any way to get past it. You know, you just kind of wait it out. You just keep
Yeah.
trying. Well, I will say one thing that was helpful for me is just kind of focusing on what I can do now. Um, for example, like if I can work on just writing one line at a time, or like, all right, I'm just going to focus on this one stanza, or I'm just going to edit this, you know, guitar part or something. Lately, that's been, I can only, you know, when's the next time I can do some vocal recording? And in the meantime, I'm just going to try to work on like TikTok content or like planning out video ideas, that kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, and if you just stay kind of consistent with small things, it for me it works a lot better than devoting a ton of time to one big thing or something. Um, but yeah, I mean the recording process has been up and down. You know, it went super fast in the beginning and then it definitely hit a lull. I finally finished the vocals and it's, you know, right now it's taken a while to get done. Um, so that's had different levels of doubt and burnout throughout the whole thing. Um, but you know, if you're making something that you care about, you got to take your time with it. And sometimes it helps not to overthink. Sometimes it helps to really overthink all the little details and get it just right. So everyone's got to navigate that differently.
Mm.
But yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's really good advice. I was gonna ask something and I just completely blanked. I hate that. Um, wow, I just had a big brain fart.
It's all good.
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask this earlier too. Um, I'm looking at your Spotify, and it seems like you've gained like a little bit of like traction, a little bit, and it's awesome to see. And like you're almost at 2,000 monthly listeners, and you have like your most played song is "False God," and it's really cool to see. And because I remember when you first started, bro, and you only had maybe like 50, 60 listeners, and
Yep.
and I was like, dang, dude, like it's so awesome to see that like everyone like is listening to your music and people are listening to your music whether it's from Kingdom Core, whether it's through friends or whoever, you know. It's just really cool to see that your music is getting out there and people are actually listening to it and they're obviously enjoying it if they keep replaying the song. So but yeah, man, it's really cool to see that. And I'm sure that makes you feel like on top of the world sometimes.
Yeah, I mean it's really encouraging. I think especially right now, um, because it's between releases, you know, like if a release comes out and you have a lot of monthly listeners, that's great. But there's definitely a lull as the release gets older, you know, between albums, between EPs, singles, whatever. Um, and I've seen a little bit of a resurgence, partially because I've been trying to devote more time on TikTok, which is weird. Like I'm 32, I have no desire to like be on TikTok.
Hmm.
But it's like a super helpful tool, and I've actually like met a lot of really cool people on TikTok, people who are into the same type of music, and um, so yeah, it's been cool to like just kind of be consistent on there and try to like put stuff out there and see what hits, and you know, people have found it and been like, oh, this is great, and um, so it's definitely reaching people I wouldn't have reached otherwise, which is cool.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm very happy that people are still streaming it, even though it's kind of old at this point.
Yeah. Um, with your music being who you are, what would you say like we may have touched on this earlier, but I'm gonna ask it again. Well, kind of. I didn't really ask this, but I'll just ask it. What do you hope that listeners, when they listen to Pipe Bomb and they listen to your music, like what do you really hope that people are taking away from your music?
Um, I mean, I think on a certain level, I'm just happy that they're listening at all.
Mm,
So even if all they take from it is like, this song sounds cool, that's fine with me. Um, Obviously, I think a lot of people that listen are not believers, and I wouldn't really expect them to be.
mm,
Um, but, you know, if they hear something in the song that makes them feel something, if they hear something that directs them to thinking about faith in a new way, or even for the first time or something like that, like ultimately that's what I would love.
mm,
Or even for thinking about things existentially in a different way or something.
mm.
I think a lot of the songs are kind of rooted in working through depression and stuff like that. And obviously that's nothing new. That's like most music is like that at this point.
Yep.
But if something in there helps them come to terms with things or think about things in a different way, then it's like that's cool too. So there's a lot of different levels on which I would like people to take things from it. Um, and obviously, like as Christians, the biggest thing we can hope for is that that's what they take from it is the gospel.
Yeah.
Um, that's not going to happen for everyone, and you know, there's probably plenty of people who are just listening just because it sounds like something else that they liked. Um, but yeah, if they could take any of those things, I'd be very happy with that.
Amen. Um, how long have you been like like a devoted Christian? Like your whole life, or
More or less my whole life. I think in high school, I definitely struggled a little bit with like it's that transition between it being like this is all I've known and like okay, now I'm actually like this is my faith. It's not just something my parents told me. It's not just my environment. Um, and I think also dealing with sin and like realizing that there's more of it in you than you think. Um, so yeah, I mean, I was raised in a Christian home, thankfully. Um,
such a blessing?
and yeah, yeah, for sure it is. Um, and so yeah, basically as long as I can remember. And even in times where I was not behaving like I was a Christian, at least not how I now would want myself to behave. Um, I still think I would have called myself a Christian, and I don't know if it's helpful for me to really dive into whether to think too hard about that because I think it helps way more to be focused on the present. Um,
Right.
but yeah, basically as long as I can remember, and I think there are a lot of things that worked in me to develop the faith more and my relationship with God more and my relationship with other Christians more too.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's part of the importance of the local church is just that's what they help you do. Like that's whether you want it or not, like you need other Christians in your life. Um,
Seriously.
and you know, you need the unglamorous churches with 25 people.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I think that's those churches are where you're going to grow for the most part. Not to say that you can't in a larger church. I just, you know, you need some kind of local church if you're looking to grow. And I know my local church has helped me a ton.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
That's I agree. Amen. Um, it's funny because I was talking about this with my friend, and he lives out in California, and he's trying to find a home church out there, and he can't. And he's talking to me about. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about this guy?" And I'm like, I was asking him a bunch of questions about it, and he said that like I'm not gonna get into any details or anything. And I was like, "Well, bro, like if there's like no, if they don't have anything during the week, like a Bible study or anything like that, it's a red flag for me." Because you need to be growing, and the only way to grow is to actually be in the Word of God with other Christians too. You can't really learn Christianity by yourself. I mean, like the only way to learn it by yourself is if you go on an app or you're getting pastored by YouTubers, which is like I highly don't recommend because that's not what God designed ministry for. He designed it to be intimate and personal and together in a unity in person. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get confused on. They think that they can just, even if they go to church in person, they go to a mega church and they expect to be growing as a Christian. When there's like 5,000 people in a mega church, and there's only like, I don't know, five pastors and no other elders, or maybe there's elders, I don't know. But like even if there was like 10 elders, it's still not enough to pastor 5,000 people, and to shepherd 5,000 people. You need to be really really careful with the churches. If you're watching and you're looking for a church, or you go to church and um, you're like possibly looking for a new church, I highly recommend praying on it first, but also um, seek other options. You know, keep your options open and try and find the small church. I go to a really small church in Cherry Hill, and we're only maybe like 60 people. But I go to that church, and we're in the Word like almost every day of the week. You know, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, every day of the week basically, except for Saturdays. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and we have something always going on during the week because my pastor, he thank God. I mean, it's he's awesome, and he dropped his whole career, his whole job where he was making lots of good money, and he dropped it just for the sake of ministry because he knew God was calling him to do that. And he is devoted to ministry, and I really look up to him because he's really leading an awesome example of what a disciple really looks like. And I encourage you, and I encourage everyone listening to really get serious with your walk today, because we don't know tomorrow. You know, we don't know the outcome of tomorrow, and God has a plan for your life. You know, and the only way to find that plan is to just to be discipled and to actually be in the Word of God and to serve the Lord and His people. And the only way you're going to do that is by going to church. I mean, it's the only way. And yeah, and I just want to say that because it was on my heart. But yeah, and it's awesome, Mitch. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that it's tricky sometimes to find a good church.
It's so sad
And
that
it's
it has
tricky
to be
for
tricky.
yeah, I mean it's tricky for people's schedules too sometimes. I
Oh,
know some
100%.
people who are like, nurses or, people who work overnights, stuff like that. Um, and it's not like you can't hear the gospel by listening to people online
Oh,
or
no,
even
no.
just by reading your Bible. If you're reading your Bible daily, that's a huge win,
Oh,
like
100%.
that's great. Um, but I know for me, the accountability factor of other people in the
That too.
church is huge.
Huge.
And hearing, you know, having other people to point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, like stuff throughout the week is very helpful too if you're having like, Bible studies or just meeting with people in the church, something like that. And I know there are people who go to really large churches and have a very strong faith, and then there are people who go to really small churches. It's not one size fits all, but it's definitely, no matter what you're inclined to, it's definitely an important thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And I'm not discrediting or like taking a crap on big churches or anything like that, because I know
No, no,
there's
yeah.
a lot of good big churches. Um, but not every church is like that, unfortunately. And it's very sad that there are churches that you have to be very careful. And like I feel like today, Christians are like, oh, I'm church shopping, and like seriously, like I mean, like I understand, but like it's just like crazy that we've come to this society today where there's so many options, and there's half of them aren't teaching the word correctly and stuff like that. And then when they go to a church where they're not teaching the word correctly, it like makes them like think that every church is like that, and it's just it's so bad, man. And
Yeah.
I mean, we need to pray for revival and pray for correct teaching, you know. And man, there was something else I was going to say too, and it's on the tip of my tongue, and I forgot. But but yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said, and but I really think that it's the accountability. Yes, the accountability is so important because um, when you go to church and you're really close with your church family and stuff like that, like in person and stuff, that's how you'll get that accountability, you know, like because the more that you spend time with them instead of like with yourself or with your worldly be- people and our surroundings, the more that they'll want to like, hey, like where's Mitch today? You know, I didn't see him at church today. I haven't seen him in a week. I haven't seen him in 2 weeks. Let me text him, see what's going on. You know, like that's how you know that like there's people out there that actually want to spend time with you and actually want you to grow, and they actually care about your walk with Jesus Christ, you know. And it's so important to have that because without that, it's so hard to walk as a Christian. You know, it's so hard to live the Christian life when you don't have any accountability and you can just do whatever the frick you want, you know. And because our flesh is weak. You know, our flesh is so
Mhm.
weak. We want to do so many things that are not in God's will because it's in our nature. But that's where our accountability partners come into play. And yeah, and it's so good, Mitch. Yeah, it's a really good point.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much. I mean, I don't have anything else. If I'm gonna be honest,
Okay.
I don't have anything else. I don't know if you have any questions for me at all, but if not, then we can really wrap it up. But it's up to you.
Yeah, I didn't have anything prepared. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
No worries.
Um, yeah.
No worries. Well, again, seriously, it's
Favorite, wait. Favorite pizza in our neighboring area because
favorite pizza in our
I'm trying to find a
neighboring area.
I'm trying to find a good pizza place near us.
Um, well, there's a pizza place. I want to say. I think it's called Johnny's question mark. Let me see. Let me look it up real quick. I think it's called Johnny's Pizza. Hold on. I think they're in Cherry Hill. Let me see. Yeah, Johnny's Pizza on Kings Highway in Cherry Hill.
Mm,
Dude, my pastor gets their pizza every Thursday night. Dude, it is like incredible. Like for like a pizza, like I'm not like okay, I like pizza. I love pizza, right? But I'm not like eating it like every week and stuff like that.
yeah.
But like when I do have a slice of pizza or two or whatever, dude, their pizza is like incredible and it's really good. I don't know the prices because I don't buy it. But you have to look online. But like their pizza is quality and it's really good.
All right.
I'm trying to think of another place. I know there's another place that I'm trying to remember, but I forget. But if you live in the area in South Jersey, there is a wonderful cheesesteak place, and it's called Cheesesteaks, and it's in Merchantville, right outside of Pensacola and Cherry Hill, and it is fire. They have cheesesteaks, they got wings, it is incredible. And yeah, shout out cheesesteaks. But it's like I'm telling you, man. I mean, whenever you want, whenever you
Yeah.
decide to text me and like, yo, man, you down for a cheesesteak? I'm there. I'm there. You
We'll
know?
make it happen. It'll
Okay.
happen. It'll happen. Yeah.
Okay. Um, well, I thank you guys so much for listening, and again, Mitch, thank you so much for coming on again, and it really means a lot to me. And I had a wonderful time talking to you, and like just learning about pipe bomb and why you make pipe bomb music and all that stuff. And just seriously, again, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, man. Go check out his music. Go check out Pipe Bomb right now. He's coming out with a new album. Be prepared. Grab the camera in fall and go scream, "Mommy, mommy!" Pipe Bomb is releasing a new album, and it is coming in hot, baby. It is coming in hot, and I cannot wait. And if you live in the area, uh, July 12th, right? Plead the Widow's Cause in
Yes.
Philly
Yep.
and sometime in August too. They're having a show. I don't know the details yet, but July 12th. Where's it at?
I think it's at the fire
At the
in
fire.
Philly.
At the fire in
Yeah.
Philadelphia. If you live in the Philadelphia area, pop out. It's gonna be a blast. It's gonna be so much fun. Can't wait. Um, but yeah, guys, till next time, and God bless.